Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersects. We are glad that you are part of this growing community where we strive to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want for your life. Go to our website at Dr.Derrick, thesportsdoctor.com, where you can find all the latest content, and you can also follow us on our social media channels. Now, let's get into this episode. Hello, everyone. We are now about to go live with Dr. Zwade Marshall from Doc2Doc Lending. Mondays is back. Today we'll be talking medical student loans, dental student loans, professional student loans in general. We're going to give some helpful information just about loans, about how to handle loans, financial literacy, things of that nature. We have Dr. Zwade Marshall, who is an anesthesiologist by training, also a pain medicine specialist in Atlanta, Georgia. But the reason why he's here today is because not only is he a doctor, he's an entrepreneur. And he has founded his own, he is the CEO and co-founder of Doc2Doc Lending. So this is doctor-owned, doctor-driven, and doctor-specialized lending for us, for medical professionals, for doctors, for dentists, for veterinarians, people who have been through the struggle, just like we have. So I want to introduce to some, and for many you might already know, Dr. Zwade Marshall, and we're glad to have him here. If you have not listened to our episode, we had a podcast episode 1 month ago. Go back and listen to that, and we talk about his story. But for now, we're going to talk about money tips, and especially dealing with debt and how to make sure that your money is working for you even when you're asleep. So, Dr. Marshall, welcome to the podcast.
Doc, it's a pleasure to be with you. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Money Mondays, and I'm excited to be here. When Doc just said that this is a doctor-owned company, he didn't mean that I own the entire company. He meant that we're crowd-funded by physicians and dentists and the other types of doctors out there, and we've raised $23 million from you, the physician community that understands the pain point of needing to access money, and the banks just don't get it. So happy to be here. And I think a large part of what we want to discuss over the course of this series of kind of check-ins, because we all know that there's not enough financial literacy out there for doctors. It's not a part of the medical school curriculum. It's not a part of the residency curriculum. It's not a part of your fellowship curriculum. And so we'll come out of training ready to heal the world, but we can't balance our checkbooks. And it's not as simple as just even checkbook balancing. It's credit score and knowing the kind of algorithm that goes behind a FICO profile. So I don't want to ramble on too long right now, but I think I'm happy to be here and know that this is meant to be interactive. So as you have questions as we go along here, please say time out, and I gotta answer a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just share from my standpoint. I remember being in undergraduate, having loans, and also being in medical school. And the financial aid advisor would always come down and they would give a talk. And I mean, at the end of the day, you knew you were signing for your loans because
What else you gonna do?
you're waiting on that check to be dispersed so you could pay your rent, so you could buy your food, take care of whatever living expenses, so you could live and go on. And then the next semester, same thing. You get the spill and you sign. I want all. Do you want part or all? I want all of the loan, right? And it felt like you were getting a paycheck. When you got that reimbursement stipend, it felt like you were getting a paycheck. And many times, I know personally, I spent it like it was a paycheck. I didn't spend it like it was a loan that I was paying upward 10% sometimes on some of these loans. So we wanted to talk about also how you can be a good steward of your loan money. Just because you have it doesn't mean you have to spend it all. That's one thing. And then also dealing with repayment of loans. I didn't really understand when I should really start paying back a loan. I knew that you go from medical school to being a resident and you're still making money, but you're not making the amount of money that you'll make in a couple of years when you finish. So for me, I just put everything on ice, and that's not the right way to do it necessarily. So we want to, as we go through this, start to answer some of the questions that you have and some of the myths that are passed down. Maybe the fourth year students are telling the first year students how to handle their loans, right? Versus it coming from a professional.
That's exactly right. And I think I'll give the first disclaimer here is I only have two licenses. one to practice medicine and one to drive a car. So this is not financial advice. It's just friendly wisdom from what I consider to be myself to be an old head at this point, where we've been here already and we can be helpful. A couple of things to say about the whole if you spend like you're an attending while you're still in residency, you'll have to live like a resident when you're an attending because those loans can literally bury you. There are a few things to consider though as you're beginning to apply for your financial aid and you get those funds dispersed. First and foremost, don't borrow more than you need. And that seems simpler said than easier said than done. But when you have an allocation of loans that you're eligible for, and you do the math on what your expenses are, the cost of tuition, the fees, the books, and the like, do that math and don't be overly conservative where you're going to be on the breadline, but know that you're going to be paying compounded interest over the life of that loan into the future. So borrow only what you need at that moment in time. Now, Dr. Burgess mentioned a very important fact about the repayment process. And this is a topic in medicine now that's in flux. It's a dynamic environment because the new administration is making some changes to how student loans are viewed and what loan forgiveness looks like. And so, as we have these Money Monday talks, we'll bring updates as things get updated. But as it is today and historically, you should at least make what's called an income-based repayment while you're still in training, where your lender will calculate based upon the income that you're making as a resident or a fellow, which is relatively modest, and looking at your city and cost of living index, a payment that likely could be less than $100 a month. The beauty of making those payments, though, even while you're in training, is that the clock begins for a possible forgiveness. In that after you've made 120 on-time payments, even if it's at a income-based repayment amount of $50, you are eligible for the entire loan to be forgiven if you're working in the right kind of eligible hospital system. It's got to be a nonprofit and there's certain criteria. So most training hospitals qualify for that designation. So if you're doing neurosurgery and you've got a 9-year fellowship, a residency and fellowship, then you've got to spend 1 year there and then you can have the loans forgiven. That's how the program was designed. And again, there are being updates made to this all right now. They've not yet been cemented, but just know that this is a part of what's usually a benefit for loan repayments.
Thank you for pointing that out and talking about loan forgiveness. Also, as far as consolidating your loans, I know for me, I consolidated my loan, which made me not eligible as far as I knew for loan forgiveness. But I like the fact that you said, because loan forgiveness has a period of time that you have to repay your loans, like you mentioned, 120 on-time payments. And if that's starting, like I did a 5-year residency plus an internship, you multiply that out, I could have knocked a significant amount of time off my payment. As well as when you're not paying, you're still accruing, the interest is still being added on. So literally for me, I paid several years of my loans before I even paid off the interest that I had accrued during my training process. And that's when that really upset me. And that's when I really got serious, like, okay, I'm mad at this debt. Let me get rid of it. So I took that approach of, okay, let me pay down my debt as quickly as possible, kind of the approach of let me get rid of all of my debt because debt is bad. But now I do realize that debt is not necessarily bad, depends on how you're using it, right? But loan forgiveness is making that early payment is very important.
Absolutely. As you're thinking about how to manage your debt, including your student loan debt as a physician, you should not do it on your own.
Mhm.
You need to have a professional involved because, as Doc just mentioned, there are a couple of nuances to what can make you ineligible versus eligible for forgiveness for income-based payment options. When you consolidate your federal loans into a private program, you lose a lot of potential benefit that the government programs offer. And again, this is a moving target now because the administration views physicians as being high income earners that don't necessarily require like we're getting too much benefit for how much we make in the current program iteration, and so they're trying to revise that to make it feel a little bit more fair for society at our expense. If those bills pass, then we'll likely have less forgiveness and less forbearance options. But as it is today, those still exist for us, and so you should be making payments under an income-based payment plan at a nonprofit hospital or training program, those years count against your forgiveness in the future.
All right. Yeah, thanks for that explanation. And I would like to shout out, I know we have some future doctors and dentists in the chat, so I see you, as well as Gladden Society, which is the organization for minority orthopedic surgeons. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. They will benefit everyone. And we're just here having conversation, trying to spread financial literacy, trying to make sure that the next generation is empowered of how to deal with your debt, which more than likely you're going to incur a small minority of people who can make it through undergraduate as well as professional training with absolutely no debt. But for majority of people, you do have debt. So let's just stick with that. What's the average amount of debt that you see now for people finishing with medical school?
$228,000. So
Wow.
it is significant. And it feels like a burden because you're talking about making a payment post training that's sometimes north of 2,500 bucks a month. So that's a real erosion to your lifestyle after you've paid taxes and paid your ongoing bills. Now, again, we don't want to demonize these loans, right? For many of us, the only way we could have become doctors is by getting the loan. So when the financial advisor said, you're going to sign this line here, here's the 75 pages of fine print, it didn't matter what it said. We needed to get that money. We need to go ahead and find a way to pay it off. So the student loan burden is high. But that's also a reason why it's hard for us to access cheaper capital in other facets of our life. So you apply for a mortgage, that student loan debt is dragging you down your overall debt to income ratio. You apply for a personal loan, that student loan payment is there as well. And so it's this like gorilla on your back that continues to haunt you into the future as you're looking to access capital for the things you'll need to buy to live over the course of your life and career. And so there are a couple of mistakes that we see at Doc2Doc that doctors make in terms of their understanding of credit and how to access money cheaply. The first and biggest thing I think that most of us miss is that we're not increasing our credit score. We're not thinking intentionally about the variables that impact your overall credit profile. Many of us don't know what FICO means, and there's a FICO 8, 9, 3, 4, and different versions of credit scores that different lenders use. So the same credit score that they use for a mortgage is not the one they use for personal lending or for a car loan, right? And so getting yourself into a free credit monitoring program, think of freecreditscore.com or My Credit Karma, whatever it is, have some method to ensure you're tracking and trending where your credit score sits. One of the major reasons to do this is because of the instance of fraud and artificial intelligence hacking people's identity and opening up debt in the fraudster's name. We've had borrowers apply to us, and for the first time, they'll find out that there's been 3 or 4 accounts opened up under their alias without their knowledge. So monitoring your credit, ensuring that you're intentional about it, knowing that there are things like long history matters. So it may feel intuitive that you can finally afford to pay off that credit card and you write a check and you pay it off in full and then you close the account. You do not want to close the account. You pay down the debt, keep the account open because you want to get credit for the years that you've had that account open. That's helpful, but you want to just lower the balance on those accounts so that your credit utilization score goes down. And so that's just a quick, friendly tip that many of us don't do intentionally.
Yeah. So two things from that. Your credit score, number one, it's not just a number, like you mentioned, it's the length of your credit history. Because you can have a decent number, which I had a decent number, and then they look and say, oh, your credit history is not long enough, right?
Exactly right.
Then also another myth is that credit cards are bad, right? Cut up all your credit cards, throw them in the trash. However, the credit card can be used to help build your credit, right? You want to be, now it's not good if you cannot be responsible enough to pay down that debt, especially if you, what I like to do is pay it down at the end of each month. So you're not accruing interest. You don't want this to sit there and gain 17, 18, 24%. However, if you're making responsible payments, not spending more than you can pay off, and you're paying that down each month, it's showing that, hey, you are responsible enough to make payments. That's going to help boost your credit history.
And when Dr. Derrick says pay down, he means pay off. So what he and I both do is that we'll use our cards for the mileage, for the points, for
Right.
all the perks that come with the cards, but you're paying that balance down to zero at the end of every month, right? And if you've got a lot of debt, credit card debt, and you're making payments and you're paying it down, you could cut the cards up so you don't swipe it again,
Right.
but just don't close the account,
Correct.
right? Because you think of it this way, if you've got eligibility for $10,000 worth of credit card capacity, that's your credit limit, and you're currently spending 9,000 on there. You pay that down to 2,000, right? Now your credit utilization is only 20%, so 2,000 out of 10,000, compared to where it was before, 90% utilized. If you close that account, you lose all of the utilization credit that you were going to get by paying it down and keeping it open. So credit history matters and length of history. Credit utilization matters. On-time payments matter. And that's where having a credit card could be a good thing. So if you have a history of having someone extend debt to you and you're making those payments on time every month, that's another strength. So we often say you're not helping yourself if you're not automating. So automating your payments so you at least have your account getting to a minimum payment going to that card or account that's above the minimum required. So you're not going to set your auto pay to just pay the minimum required, but you want to ensure you don't miss a payment because you're on call or you're busy or you're traveling for your away rotation. And so at least it's automated there and you can always overpay as time goes by.
Are you a young physician who's frustrated in figuring out how you're going to continue to fund yourself through this early phase of your career? Are you tired of speaking to lenders who do not understand your plight? We have a solution for you. Let me introduce you to Doc2Doc Lending.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Zwade Marshall, co-founder, CEO of Doc2Doc Lending. We are the exclusive lending partner for physicians and dentists in the United States. We underwrite our loans thoughtfully, knowing the physician journey and your career trajectory. We're a company that's been founded by doctors and built for doctors because we get it. Banks don't understand all the ways in which we struggle through educational debt, consumer debt, as we're trying to make ends meet during a very challenging time of our lives. Doc2Doc is underwritten with thoughtful process that's meant to give you credit for all the unique physician characteristics that you have, like being board certified, having a dual degree, undergoing and finishing a specialty or a fellowship as well, and just being employed as a physician. All of those things give you credit to get your interest rate lower with our platform.
So we are glad to partner with Doc2Doc Lending. So if you are stuck trying to figure out where you can get funding or where you can continue to support your family during this time of transition in your career, we offer you a solution. Doc2Doc Lending, physician owned, understands your plight, understands what it's like to be an early physician or a physician who wants to do something outside of medicine. Check out Doc2Doc Lending. This segment is a paid advertisement for Doc2Doc Lending Inc. Loans are made available by DR Bank, member FDIC, and are subject to credit approval and available in approved states only. Representative APRs for Doc2Doc range from 9.99% to 26.99%. Terms and conditions available at doc2doclending.com. Very important to automate your life, especially during residency, med school, where your primary focus is studying and taking care of patients and survival. You don't want these payments to skip by, right? And now you have messed up your credit history even more than helping yourself. So that's one thing. And then you mentioned that debt ratio. So when they say, congratulations, we have increased your amount of loan, that you can obtain from 8,000 to 15,000, that's helpful because now your debt ratio goes down. They've given you the ability to take on more use of the credit card, but as you're going to use it responsibly and keep that balance as close to zero, if not zero, now your debt ratio is going to decrease.
Absolutely. Very well said. I know that as doctors, we like acronyms. And so we think of the acronym for folks in our situation when you're transitioning in your early stage of your career as DIRE, DIRE. The D is for debt reduction. So it's improving your score, lowering your interest rate costs. The I is for insurance. As doctors, we need quite a bit of insurance, and that's malpractice insurance, life insurance, and disability insurance is critical. Disability is also one of those areas where you want to meet with an expert that's specific specific to your specialty. So I'm an anesthesiologist, interventional spine doctor. Dr. Derrick is an orthopedic surgeon. We may not get the best insurance policy from the same carrier. Principal is great for an own occupation specialty specific insurance, whereas it may be Mass Mutual for orthopedic. And I'm making up names now, but you want to explore the right disability insurance for your field because in my instance, if I lose the ability to drive needles in someone's spine in my operating room, I want to be able to get my disability payout, even if I can still see clinic patients or if I can still teach medicine. Many insurance carriers will say that because you can still work in some aspect of medicine, you cannot get your disability payout. With the right insurance that's specialty specific, the carpal tunnel, you can still go ahead and get your payout while you see patients in the clinic. The R in dire is for retirement, so we should always be thinking about putting something aside for retirement planning. Many of us, want to do medicine voluntarily, not because you have to go show up and earn that check. And you're a better doctor when you don't feel the pressure of the money need. And so think of retirement as early as possible. And finally, the E in dire is emergency, having a nest egg of about 3 months worth of salary for income loss and medical expenses. Should you lose the ability to go to work for some period of time, you want to have a nest egg like that. So dire, DIRE, debt, insurance, retirement, and emergency.
That's a whole mastermind right there. Maybe that'll be another topic we'll tackle one day. But that's beautiful. Dire. I like that. Now, we did get one question as to we talked about the 120 repayments for loan forgiveness. What's the earliest time period you can start? Can a medical student start repaying their loan?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I can't answer that off the top of my head right now
Yeah.
because it depends, right? If you're in medical school and you don't have an income, that's a period in time in which your interest is accruing and no payments are expected, but you can make payments. Will those payments count towards the 120 for debt forgiveness? That I'm not sure of. And my instinct is to say it doesn't. It is once you graduate and they begin to require payments. Now, those payments in medical school help with interest accrual. So you're accruing less compound interest for sure. But getting credit for the loan forgiveness, I'm not sure. We have to look that up.
Yeah, but keep it down that interest accrual is a benefit enough. So just define exactly what that is for those listening.
Yes. So think of interest as the amount of money that you're paying in fees to the lender that compound. So as if you borrowed $100,000 in any given year or period of time for your medical debt or medical education, and let's call it for simple math, you've got a 10% interest rate on there. And so you've got $1,000 that's going to be added on over the course of a year. The balance for the following year is going to be not just 100,000, but $101,000, right? And now you're having a 10% accrual on 101,000. And for every year that you're not paying any interest, that amount keeps compounding onto the principal. So you're owing an increasingly higher amount of fees. If you begin to make those interest payments in medical school, you're at least keeping the principal balance the same. So rather than having that 100,000 go up to 101, then to 102, it'll be $100,000, and you're having those payments just come down from the total balance that you'll owe over time.
So, right now this is graduation time. So, congratulations to all the graduates, whether it's high school, undergrad, medical school, finishing your residency. But with that comes transition, right? So, it's one thing that you're finishing medical school, you've had the money coming in on a routine basis. Now you're transitioning either to your first job or to a fellowship, right? And there's going to be a period of time where, hey, I have to move. Hey, I need to get established in a new apartment, or I might be trying to buy a house. That's my experience, right? So I'm finishing up my fellowship, and I got caught in the housing crisis of 2008, 2009. So
Yeah.
I had one ding on my credit already, and now I am signing my new contract. I have this contract in hand, and I'm shopping around to different banks, and people are not really interested, right? But one person took a chance, and I think that chance has paid off for him as well as for me over the future, and I still have that appreciation for that bank and I continue to use them because they were willing to give me a loan then. But everyone's not going to be as friendly knowing that, hey, you have a lot of debt, like we mentioned, over $228,000 chain hanging around your ankle that you're dragging along that everyone can see. They know that your credit history might not be that high and that you have to start your life. You might already have a family. A lot of people might not be interested in giving you a loan at that point. So let's kind of talk about that transition period.
Absolutely. So it's funny how so many of our paths converge on a very similar story, and that's why Doc2Doc Lending has done so well because we've got a very similar history of debt. I was going from medical school to residency, a similar timing as you, Dr.Derrick, and our my FICO score was in the mid 600s. My income was $13 an hour, and my student loan debt was 212,000 bucks. And so I couldn't access the capital easily. What we also know is that the cost for relocating today, because of inflation and some of these cities, the expense for last month's rent, broker fee, it's exorbitant. And it's hard to kind of cash flow that expense or even to borrow from our family members because they can be well into the five figures. What Doc2Doc has now in our platform is a free resource tool to help you budget depending upon where you're going for your transition. And we have transition loans that are meant to be thoughtful, where we've got very humane payments for the first half of the loan, where you can make interest-only payments depending upon the amount you borrow. We do take into account that your FICO score is not going to be the best potentially, and so we'll lend down to a 600 FICO score for folks that are still in training and down to a 650 for our established positions. And then we also know that time is of the essence, right? Getting an offer from us does not require a hard credit pull. So you can just do a soft check and see what you qualify for, and we can get you an approval or a decision, an approval or denial, because again, you have to have above a 600 minimum FICO score, but you can get that approval or denial decision within a matter of a minute on our platform, and then we can fund that loan in 5 to 7 days. So it's all meant to be frictionless, knowing that that you're busy and knowing that you're likely hearing a lot of no's from other lenders because of just how our profile sits in the overall consumer landscape.
Yeah. And that's why when we say doctor specific, because Doc2Doc Lending understands the path that we're on, understands some of the troubles that we might have had, understands where we're going, and that, we're typically pretty responsible in being doing the things we were supposed to do to make it to this point where other people might not really take that into consideration.
That's right. For many Americans, a 650 FICO score is because they've maybe filed for bankruptcy in the past and they're trying to crawl out of it. They've had a couple of late payments or delinquencies or charge-offs in their credit profile. For us, it could just be as simple as you've got a lot of student loans and you've had an immature credit history. You did not have a history showing on-time repayments for multiple years. And so the combination of immature credit and student loans can make many of us look like a bad credit risk when we are in fact not. And our company recognizes it and we see it. And we see that our doctors are repaying at a rate that is not predicted in their overall credit profile, that we do better than we should based upon credit history.
Absolutely. And just outside of, we've talked about student loans and transitions, but also for doctors that might have gotten settled into their practice or started life, and now they have other interests outside of medicine and entrepreneurship or real estate. Does Doc2Doc lend to them as well?
Oh, most certainly. Thanks for the question. I think as we talk about our experiences being struggling broke medical students transitioning through, we might give the impression that our lending program is only for those in training still. It's not. Actually, 75% of all the funds that we lend out go to established doctors. And it can be early career because you're looking to kind of get your sea legs under you. You just relocated to start your first job. They didn't pay you a sign-on bonus or a relocation bonus, or they're going to refund you after you get there. That's the time that you borrow from us. It could be that you need to get the down payment or the capital to do a fix and flip for your commercial or residential real estate project. We can lend for that as well. So we say that this is a life happens loan with Doc2Doc. Any legal reason, we don't ask you why you're borrowing from us to underwrite a loan based upon purpose. We just ask for data gathering purposes. And so it's meant to be extraordinarily easy for an established doctor to get the asset from us.
Perfect. So for someone who's listening who says, "Hey, I want to get more information," tell us how they can find you on the web or on social media.
Sure. So first of all, we'll leave a handle in this Instagram live, and check out the doc. Check out the sports doctor. I think because of our partnership, any of the listeners here that click on the link that we have, the affiliate link that we have together, they'll get a concierge experience with us. We have some Amazon discounted incentives for folks that come through this pipeline, and they'll get a concierge kind of a fast track process through that'll ensure that they're cared for, that we're attentive. If they go on our website at Doc2DocLending.com, they'll see that our Trustpilot reviews are exceptional. And so we don't just say the thing that we're for doctors, but we live it. And if you're thinking about needing to borrow and you're not sure yet, reach out. And we'll help to kind of coach you through how to think about the algorithm of when to borrow, how much to borrow. You can apply and see what you get approved for, and then decide you don't need all the funds and change the amount you're going to borrow because you don't need all the funds. So we're never going to push more money on you than you need, because ultimately you want to make sure that this is responsible borrowing and that we're here to be your stewards in that process.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So if you go to my website, Dr. Derrick, the Sports Doctor, or click right there on the link tree on my Instagram profile, you'll be able to go to the website and they're listed right there on the front page as a sponsor, and it'll take you right to the page. And also for anyone who might have questions who did not put it in the chat, you can also reach out to us directly with that question, and we can get you an answer, maybe create some content around it, or we can discuss it on the next live, because this is not the only event. This is just the first event. I wanted to introduce Dr. Marshall to you, introduce Doc2Doc Lending to you. As you know, on this platform, we don't just put people on this platform unless we understand and know what they're doing and understand what they can offer to you as a community. We're not just here to try to make money. So we want you to learn more and be empowered by financial literacy, because if you don't know what you're doing, if you're just kind of playing the game, you're not going to win.
Could not agree with you more. Thank you for having me on. Looking forward to the next set of tips and tricks. We'll keep the content here and share it on our platforms as well. And we look forward to being a part of the community and adding value. So thanks for tuning in, team.
Sure, sure. And thank you. You have a great evening. Until next time, peace.
Peace.
Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Hey, time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine.